Hello, folks. Welcome to the Plain Mundane Show. Now we're going to talk about the Thule Society, or in German, der Thule Gesellschaft. I'm going to read to you some excerpts from the book The Unknown Hitler by Wulf, Schwartzwaller. The Thule Gesellschaft, Thule Society, was founded August 17, 1918 by Rudolf von Sebottendorf. He had been schooled in occultism, Islamic mysticism, alchemy, Rosicrucianism, and much else in Turkey, where he had also been initiated into Freemasonry. Its original name was Studiengruppe für das Germanisches Altertum, the study group for German antiquity, but it soon started to disseminate anti-Republican and anti-Semitic propaganda. A movement to promote Thulean ideas among industrial workers and to offset Marxism was formed in August of 1918. The workers' political circle with dualist Karl Hauer as chairman. From this came the German Workers' Party of 1919. A year later, this became the NSDAP under the leadership of Adolf Hitler. It had members from the top echelons of the party, including Rudolf Hess and Alfred Rosenberg. Though not Adolf Hitler, Sebottendorf stated, Thule members were the people to whom Hitler first turned to and who first allied themselves with Hitler. The swastika flag adopted by the NSDAP was the brainchild of another dualist, Dr. Krohn, K-R-O-H-N. The press organ was the Münchener Beobachter, the Munich Observer, which later became the Völkischer Beobachter, the People's Observer. The Thule Society is known to be closely connected to the Germanenorden secret society. The Germanenorden was a secret society in Germany early in the 20th century formed by several prominent German occultists in 1912. The order, whose symbol was a swastika, had a hierarchical fraternal structure similar to Freemasonry. It taught to its initiates nationalist ideologies of Nordic race superiority, anti-Semitism, as well as occult, almost magical philosophies. Some say that Deutsche Arbeiterpartei, later the Nazi Party, when under the leadership of Adolf Hitler, was a political front, and indeed the organization reflected many ideologies of the party, including the swastika symbol. The Thule Society, another secret society with similar ideologies and symbols, was also closely linked to this. With the victory of the Nazi Party, the occult tradition was carried on in the Third Reich, mainly by the SS, who Reichsfuhrer Himmler was an avid student of the occult. An SS occult research department, the Einherbe Ancestral Heritage, was established in 1935 with SS Colonel Wolfram von Sievers at its head. Occult research took SS researchers as far afield as Tibet. Sievers had the tantric prayer, the Bardo Todol, read over his body after his execution at Nuremberg. National Socialism in the Third Reich represented a major attempt by high esoteric adepts to re-establish a culture based on the laws of nature. Against the entrenched forces of anti-life, nothing that ambitious had been tried since the founding of the American Republic by Masonic adepts. The Thule Society Inner Circle beliefs. Thule was a legendary island in the far north, similar to Atlantis, supposedly the center of a lost high-level civilization. But not all secrets of that civilization had been completely wiped out. Those who remained were being guarded by ancient, high-intelligent beings similar to the masters of Theosophy or the White Brotherhood. The truly initiated could establish contact with these beings by means of a magic mystical rituals. The masters, or ancients, allegedly would be able to endow the initiated with supernatural strength and energy. With the help of these energies, the goal of the initiated was to create a race of supermen of Aryan stock who would exterminate all inferior races. On April 6th of 1919, in Bavaria, left-wing socialists and anarchists proclaimed the Bavarian Soviet Republic. The brains of the revolution were a group of writers who had little idea of administration. Life in Munich grew chaotic. The counter-revolutionary forces, the Whites, composed of various groups of decommissioned soldiers known as Freikorps, Brother Corps, equipped and financed by the mysterious Thule Society, defeated the Bavarian Soviet within a matter of weeks. Many other decommissioned soldiers waited out the turbulence in barracks, Adolf Hitler among them. After the Bavarian Republic had been defeated by the Whites in May, Hitler's superiors put him to work in the Post-Revolution Investigating Commission. His indictments injected ruthless efficiency into the kangaroo courts as he fingered hundreds of non-commissioned officers and enlisted men who had sympathized with the communists and anarchists. He was subsequently sent to attend special anti-communist training courses and seminars at the university, which were financed by Reichswehr administration and by private donors from the Thule Society. This led to an assignment in the intelligence division of the post-war German army to infiltrate groups that could organize the working classes while communists were weak. On a September evening in 1919, Hitler turned up in the Sternnecker beer hall, where members and friends of the budding German Workers' Party had gathered. He quietly listened to the presentation by engineer Gottfried Feder, a Thule Society member who talked about Jewish control over lending capital. When one of the other group members called for Bavaria to break away from the rest of Germany, Hitler sprang into action. The astonished audience stood by while his highly aggressive remarks and compelling oratory swept through the room. After Hitler had finished his harangue, party chairman and founder Anton Drexler immediately asked him to a meeting of the party steering committee held a few days later. He was asked to join the committee as its seventh member responsible for advertising and propaganda. Back in 1912, several German occultists with radical anti-Semitic inclinations decided to form a magic lodge, which they named the Order of Teutons, Teutons. The main founders were Theodor Fritsch, a publisher of anti-Semitic journal, and Philipp Stauff, pupil of the racist Guido von List, and Hermann Pohl, the order's chancellor. Pohl would drop out 3 years later to found his own bizarre lodge, the Voltvater Teutonic Order of the Holy Grail. The Order of Teutons was organized along the lines of the Freemasons or Rosicrucians, having different degrees of initiation. Only persons who could fully document that they were of pure Aryan ancestry were allowed to join. In 1915, Pohl was joined by Rudolf Blauer, who held a Turkish passport and practiced Sufi meditation. He also dabbled in astrology and was an admirer of Lanz von Liebenfeld's and Guido von List, both pathologically anti-Semitic. Blauer went by the name of Rudolf Freyer von Sebottendorf. He was very wealthy, although the origin of his fortune is unknown. He became the Grand Master of the Bavarian Order, and he founded the Thule Society with Pohl's approval in 1918. After the Bavarian Communist Revolution of 1918, the Thule Society became a center of the counter-revolutionary subculture. An espionage network and arms caches were organized. The Thule Club rooms became a nest of resistance to the revolution in the Munich Soviet Republic. Journalist Karl Hauer was given the job of founding the Political Worker Circle. He realized that the workers would reject any program that was presented to them by a member of the conservative privileged class. Hauer knew that the mechanic Anton Drexler, who was working for the railroads, was a well-known anti-Semite chauvinist and proletarian. With Drexler as nominal chairman, Hauer founded the German Workers' Party in 1919, January. The German Workers' Party was only one of many associations founded and controlled by the Thule Society. The Thule was the mother to the German Socialist Party, led by Julius Streicher, and the right-wing radical Oberlin Free Corps. It published the Munich Observer, which later became the National Observer. Hitler became the most prominent personality in the party. He caused Hauer to drop out, and he pushed Drexler, the nominal chairman, to the sidelines. He filled key positions with his own friends from the Thule Society and the Army during the summer of 1920. Upon his suggestion, the party was renamed the National Socialist German Worker Party, NASDAP. The new name was intended to equally attract nationalists and proletarians. To go along with the new name, his mass movement also required a flag with a powerful symbol. Among many designs under consideration, Hitler picked the one suggested by Thule member Dr. Krohn, a red cloth with a white circle in the middle containing a black swastika. Hitler wanted to turn the German Workers' Party into a mass-conscious fighting party, but Hauer and Drexler were hesitant, due in part to their woeful financial situation. The Thule Society was not yet supplying very much money, and no one seemed to know how to build up a mass party. Hitler arranged 2 public meetings in obscure beer halls, and then he drafted leaflets and posters, but there was no real breakthrough. All of this changed dramatically at the end of 1919 when Hitler met Dietrich Eckart. Most biographers have underestimated the influence that Eckart exerted on Hitler. He was the wealthy publisher and editor-in-chief of the anti-Semitic journal, which he called In Plain German. Eckart was also a committed occultist and master of magic. As an initiate, Eckart belonged to the inner circle of the Thule Society as well as other esoteric orders. There can be no doubt that Eckart, who had been alerted to Hitler by other duelists, trained Hitler in techniques of self-confidence, self-projection, persuasive oratory, body language, and discursive sophistry. With these tools, in a short period of time, he was able to move the obscure Workers' Party from the club and beer hall atmosphere to a mass movement. The emotion-charged lay speaker became an expert orator, capable of mesmerizing a vast audience. One should not underestimate occultism's influence on Hitler. His subsequent rejection of Freemasons and esoteric movements, of theosophy and anthroposophy, does not necessarily mean otherwise. Occult circles have long been known as covers for espionage and influence peddling. Hitler's spy apparatus under Canaris and Heydrich were well aware of these conduits, particularly from the direction of Britain, which had within its MI5 intelligence agency a department known as the Occult Bureau. That these potential sources of trouble were purged from Nazi life should not be taken to mean that Hitler and the Nazi secret societies were not influenced by mystical and occult writers such as Madame Blavatsky, Houston Stewart Chamberlain, Guido von List, Lanz von Liebenfels, Rudolf Steiner, George Gurdjieff, Karl Haushofer, and Theodor Fritsch. Although Hitler later denounced and ridiculed many of them, he did dedicate his book Mein Kampf to his teacher Dietrich Eckart. A frequent visitor to Landsberg prison, where Hitler was writing Mein Kampf with the help of Rudolf Hess, was General Karl Haushofer, a university professor and director of the Munich Institute of Geopolitics. Haushofer, Hitler, and Hess had long conversations together. Hess also kept records of these conversations. Hitler's demands for German living space in the East and the presence of the Slavic nations were based on the geopolitical theories of the learned professor. Haushofer was also inclined towards the esoteric. As military attaché in Japan, he had studied Zen Buddhism and he had gone through initiations at the hands of Tibetan lamas. He also became Hitler's second esoteric mentor, replacing Dietrich Eckart in Berlin. Haushofer had founded the Luminous Lodge, or the Vril Society. The lodge's objective was to explore the origins of the Aryan race and to perform exercises in concentration to awaken the forces of Vril. Haushofer was a student of the Russian magician and metaphysician Gregor Ivanovich Gurdjieff. Both Gurdjieff and Haushofer maintained that they had contacts with the secret Tibetan lodges and possessed the secret of the Superman. The lodge included Hitler, Alfred Rosenberg, Himmler, Göring, and Hitler's subsequent personal physician, Dr. Morell. It is also known that Aleister Crowley and Gurdjieff sought contact with Hitler. Hitler's unusual powers of suggestion became more understandable if one keeps in mind that he had the access to the secret psychological techniques of the esoteric lodges. Haushofer taught him the techniques of Gurdjieff, which in turn were based on the teachings of the Sufis and the Tibetan lamas, and familiarized him with the Zen teaching of the Japanese Society of the Green Dragon. In the latter half of the previous century, intriguing hints about Tibetan secret teachings had been carried to the West by Helena Blavatsky, who claimed initiation at the hands of the Holy Lamas themselves. Blavatsky taught that her hidden masters and secret chiefs had their earthly residence in the Himalayan region. As soon as the Nazi movement had sufficient funds, it began to organize a number of expeditions to Tibet, and these succeeded one another practically without interruption until 1943. One of the most tangible expressions of Nazi interest in Tibet was the party's adoption of its deepest and most mythical of symbols, the swastika. The swastika is one of mankind's oldest symbols, and apart from the cross and the circle, probably the most widely distributed. It is shown on pottery fragments from Greece dating back to the 8th century BC. It was used in ancient Egypt, India, and China. The Navajo Indians of North America have a traditional swastika pattern. Arab Islamic sorcerers used it. In more recent times, it was incorporated in the flags of certain Baltic states. The idea for the use of the swastika by the Nazis came from a dentist named Dr. Friedrich Krohn, who was a member of the secret Germanen order. Krohn produced the design for the actual form in which the Nazis came to use this symbol, that is, reversed, spinning in an anti-clockwise direction. As a solar symbol, the swastika is properly thought of as spinning, and the Buddhists have always believed the symbol attracted luck. The Sanskrit word swastika means good fortune and well-being. According to the Kabbalistic lore and occultic theory, chaotic force can be evoked by reversing the symbol. And so the symbol appeared as the flag of Nazi Germany and the insignia of the Nazi Party, an indication for those who had eyes to see as the occult nature of the Third Reich. Thank you for tuning in to the Plain Mundane Show. Over and out.